Well, I've been doing some scheming this morning. I want to make some mortises in these, well, 2x, and I need a 1-inch mortise. And you know how you do those is to drill a series of holes with a 1-inch bit, then use a 1-inch corner chisel to square up the ends to make them square. And this is an old one that I had picked up someplace, and the end was broken off. It was probably a couple inches longer. Well, I've gradually ground that down and been working, but very hard steel. But I've got it pretty near to where I want it. I got to do a little more grinding on it with whetstone, make a handle for it. But part of the problem when you're doing something like that, like going through, like this is 4 inches, but I'll be doing some 6 and even up to some 8. You know, if you try to do it by hand, it's very easy to get off. And I can't be off at all. You know, like when this is a 2-inch piece and I'm using a 1-inch bit, I've got to be perfectly square. Well, a lot of times what I'll do is put a square like that, use that to guide, you know, and eyeball it and try to go that way. But, you know, that's not the best way. I do the same thing like when I'm trying to drill at an angle. I'll use one of these old Stanley tools, which are a heck of a nice tool. I've got several of these, but you can set that down at an angle and then run your bit along that. But it's, you know, it's not a real precise way of doing it. But these are a handy tool. Stanley makes some of the handiest old tools. Like say even this old piece, you know, like, okay, this is a real old one, a Stanley, and they're cast iron and just really well made. Now these new ones, that's cast aluminum and pretty flimsy, but they work. But on these woodworking tools, always, you know, when you find a Stanley, you know what you're getting. On the old stuff. New stuff is altogether different. Well, I'd have to say even this big mallet that you see me using a lot, this is actually a Stanley tool, but it was made in France. Anyway, so I'm scheming on this, how to get these and go through, and you know, like I've got a couple of 1/2-inch drill presses, and I've got one set up with a mortising bit on it. You know, that's a square bit, which works great for smaller holes, but you know, this is, I'm getting pretty big here. So in order to do that and keep it square, I've mounted one of these pony vices. You know, they mount almost flush with the table, and they got bars underneath and stuff. Handy little vise. And then I've got it faced with ash blocks so it doesn't mar the wood. So my scheme now, I can put a piece in here, and then I have this old contraption. She's a little sticky. I gotta do some more work on her. But it's something that Black & Decker sold. You know, Black & Decker made the 1/2-inch drill that's portable. But then they made this adapter. And their drills come with a little divot in the back here and a collar down here so that you can stick them in this adapter. And I actually know a lot of old farmers that never really had a regular big drill press. They use nothing but these. You know, it was just a way to make better use of your tools. Good thing about these, they got a knob here. You can slide the adjustment up or down, and then it's got like 6 inches of travel. Kind of a slick setup, really, not real strong. It's cast aluminum. Even the base is cast aluminum. But for what I'm using it for, I don't need the pressure, I just need the guidance. Well, this whole thing will swivel to the side, so my scheme is to mount this on here, then I can swivel the drill part over, center it, and adjust my height. With this, adjust the height of the thing. You can set it up or down. And I can run my 1-inch bit, and it'll be square to the world. You know, I think, because I got to do quite a few of these, and you know, if you screw one up, that piece of wood is screwed. These long bits like this are actually called shipbuilding bits. I've got one, just the 1-inch one, but then I actually have one that's got another 18-inch extension on it for going through long logs. But I think this will work, because it is very hard to just eyeball them and get them straight. And like I say, this isn't real strong, but it doesn't need to be, because when you're using these auger type bits, the pressure has nothing to do with it. They actually screw themselves down to keep themselves centered. You know, but as they run, they pull themselves in. In fact, there are times where they'll pull, you know, if you're in real tough material, they'll pull more than you want them to pull. The only time they don't work good is if you're going end grain. You know, if you're going into the end of the wood, that screw will strip out and it won't. Then it'll take a little pressure to even go through. But otherwise, for what I'm doing, it should work perfectly fine. But this drill isn't the one I use most of the time. I know it works, but that cord looks a little ratty. The one I actually use is a Craftsman one, so I'll have to put a new cord on this thing. I think it'll be worth it. But I think that'll work. You know, I need to do that for this project, but there comes times every once in a while where I'm looking to do that same thing. So I wanted to come up with a good method of doing it. I think this will do it. Just got to get all the rust off of this thing. But it used to work, so I'm sure I can get it to break loose again. You know, it's, like I say, a lot of people used to use these for a drill press all the time, but they're not particularly strong. But it'll work to keep it lined up, and that's mainly what I need it for. And it's got plenty of adjustment on it. So I'll soak this down with WD-40. That should do the trick. Yeah, interesting device though. But like I say, not strong, you know, just cast aluminum, but strong enough for my needs.